right. Well, hello everyone. One thing I kind of want to go over here with you today is some of the investigation report findings. In particular, one of them. I just want to talk about the third bullet point there, about how I was apparently mocking and belittling students if they did not stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. So that one we're going to look into here a little bit more in depth. But first, I just want to kind of read a little bit, again, two different components of this investigation report here. Again, you can see kind of a verified summary on the top of what Laura Bielefeldt turned in to the Burlington Area School District with this complaint. On the bottom, I'm just going to read the bottom part. It literally says, complainant provided me with the following allegations regarding myself. So these are the things that she literally turned in. One, I treated female students and students of color less favorably than their white counterparts. Yeah, not true. Number two, I would often make sexist and misogynistic comments. Not true. Number three, I would teach conspiracy theories, push my own political ideologies on students, and not consider their point of view. And this is kind of an all-encompassing one. She's throwing election fraud, pushing far-right political perspectives, and that I downplayed the coronavirus pandemic. Again, if you watch my second video, I just talked all about that one. Go to Google, go up in the video section, type in Mr. Taff, coronavirus, whatever, COVID-19 conspiracy theories. You'll find that one. Number four, again, the last one I clearly disproved that. Number four, that I taught a lesson on the Holocaust and say the Jewish community brought the Holocaust on themselves. That was my first video that I came out and released. That one clearly debunked that statement. It's completely wrong. A lot of confusion there. And number five, this is what I'm going to focus on the most here, that I would mock and belittle students who did not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. So let's look into this, all right? Again, this thing here comes from Scott Williams. He calls himself a reporter, journalist from the Racine, the Journal Times, we'll call it. And so one of his articles comes out, right? He's really trying to focus on the negative and trying to dig as much as he can. That's what he believes he's good at. And so kind of skipping the beginning part of the article, he then says, on other issues raised in the investigation, you got to at least mention some of this stuff, right? There's no evidence that I've used racial slurs. There was an example used one time in class, and the students knew that that was the case, and maybe one didn't actually listen to me say that it is an example, and was sleeping or something, and then turned that into her. I have no idea. That's maybe how that happened. Had made sexist remarks or tried to indoctrinate students to his own political or personal political beliefs. Again, that's just all flat out wrong. Never did that. Even students would say that, except for one student, which I know exactly who that student is, but apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So let's get into this next part. However, Scott Williams says the two newly released reports, which came out a few weeks ago, show that the investigator found many complaints against Taff to be accurate. I want to underline that word, accurate, okay? Because Scott Williams is making the claim here that the complaints were accurate, right? Accurate. Again, I stress that. He then gets into, that the investigator faulted me repeatedly for my on-the-job conduct. And so let's look into how accurate these complaints really are. Again, I'm going to come back to this slide in a second. Scott Williams then goes on to say here, using the words that Savion Grinnell wrote, that I need to improve my overall judgment and professionalism as a teacher. I personally dispute much of the findings from this report, as the suggestions and opinions included in this report, I believe, are very subjective. And so anyways, then Scott Williams goes on to say here, the investigator cited incidents when I questioned students who chose not to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Question students. I want you to focus on that word that Scott Williams writes here, that I question students. Because initially, if you look at the third bullet point here, I mocked and belittled them. So somehow, just keep this in mind, right? If we're looking at accurate, these complaints are accurate. Now I'm questioning them. Okay, so if I question them, I could still clearly be mocking or belittling them. That's possible. So now we need to look into, well, what type of questioning did I do? How was this done? Was it a form of mocking or belittling them? Because, again, Scott Williams says that these complaints were accurate. That's what the investigator found, right? And clearly, if you go back to here, I mocked and belittled them. So again, just trying to prove my point here. The next one, inappropriate approach to discussing the Nazi Holocaust. No, not at all. I do not believe that was inappropriate. Again, search for that one. I put that one out as my first video. Go to Google, go to videos, the tab, type in Holocaust Taff. You'll find it. Watch it. And it allowed students to celebrate a holiday with a decoration they labeled a very ghetto Christmas. Now, that one I'll take the blame for. I can understand how that phrase, the ghetto, can be offensive. Was never meant to be that way with that particular class we did it in. But, I'll learn from it. We move on, right? So that's that. But I want to jump back here to this Pledge of Allegiance, right? I question students. So again, is my questioning a form of mocking or belittling them? So let's look. So here's a claim, right? I mocked and belittled students if they did not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Again, Laura Bielefeldt, the complainant, she's now talking with Scott Williams of the Journal Times. And, this is some stuff from one of the articles. She's claiming all this stuff. Clearly, she's probably talking to her daughter, who must have been upset years ago, never said a thing to me. We got along just fine. She's actually a very bright student in my class. And then this, the last paragraph here, I kind of cut and spliced in there, this Damatis Mayorga was one of the students who decided she didn't want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. Okay, and that's what we're going to focus on here. Again, the racial slurs part in the middle paragraph, wrong. Voicing support for Trump's wanting to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. After we were done learning that lesson in Damatis's junior level class at the very end, I did state that. Not in a bad way, just gave examples. So we had a whole debate on it, discussion on immigration. So if she chose to be offended by that, that's her choice. I just voiced my opinion as I'm allowed to do so per district policy at the very end of when we're learning something. And so anyways, I sent out an email to all of us who did not stand for the pledge and asked what was the reason for doing that. So here's what that says. This is actually, again, in the report. I apologize. So the emails we're going to be getting into shortly. But the Pledge of Allegiance, this is the complaint mentioned an allegation that Mr. Taff has mocked and belittled students if they did not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Therefore, I asked Mr. Taff about the allegation. Mr. Taff indicated that he did not and does not require students stand up for the pledge. He added that they, us teachers, can't require them to do so. He says he had noticed students sitting down during the pledge, but reiterated he does not require students stand for it. And in this particular case, I did. One year, it's probably right after Donald Trump became president, so this would have been back in 2016, early 2017. And part of this investigation, he said, I asked current students who have had Mr. Taff whether or not he requires students to stand for the pledge, or mocked and belittled them who did not stand for the pledge. And again, these students all said, no, I didn't, because I have not mocked and belittled students. Obviously then, they did an open records request, so this attorney gets all of my emails, all of my files, starts digging through, and it's like, here's the smoking gun, right? The smoking gun evidence. So, however, it says here that email correspondence did show that Mr. Taff in March of 2017 asked several students why they had chosen not to stand for the pledge. That email is as follows. And so I just simply want to read this email. This has to be the smoking gun evidence where I mock and belittle them. So let's see. Hey ladies, firstly, let me just say that no, you're not in trouble. So just to make that clear. Anyway, I noticed that you chose not to stand and salute the American flag at the beginning of each school day. Again, I'm not condemning you for your actions. I'm just curious to better understand your reasons behind why. That's all. I'm seeking understanding. Standing and saluting the flag during the Pledge of Allegiance is not a mandatory thing to do, but again, I'm just wondering why you chose to sit. I'm not turning your names over to a school review board or anything like the McCarthyism simulation we did in class. This had to have been early second semester. We're learning about the Cold War, did a false accusation, communism, McCarthyism simulation. So that's what I was referring to. Anyways, that's simulation class. So please don't let that worry you. Seriously, do you trust me? Ha ha ha, really. Again, part of that simulation, because it's just happened in this class. Really, I'm just curious and want to understand this aspect of today's youth culture better. If you find it possible to just give me a little feedback as to why, I'd be very appreciative of you doing so. Thanks in advance. And so again, I'm putting this out in a spirit of inquiry to understand, not to mock and belittle. Then in the report, it says Mr. Taff then received several replies from these students, one of which stated me personally. Let me back up. So clearly, if I sent the email out, we do the pledge once in the morning right away, first period, right? So if I sent this email out, to a group of students, they all would know that each other was sitting down. And actually, the two that were that I sent this email out to, that's why the next one you'll see it says ladies, because I sent it to both of them. They sat near each other. I know they were friends. And so, again, I know that might be a deal for some people. Like, he sent the email to, all one big group. It was a couple students in the morning class. So anyways, it says, me personally, I believe the flag means nothing anymore, one of my students said. I used to see the flag as a symbol of how this country accepted everyone, how we were all treated equally. I'm aware that some may think it's disrespectful to those who fought for this country, but it's not. I still give those who served a lot of respect. As you can tell, this country is divided more than ever, right? This was right after Donald Trump became president, within the first few months. So, and that flag does not mean what it used to mean to me anymore, since I've had to face a lot of judgment from people for who I am and where my family and me came from. We are not treated equally. It's now just a piece of cloth that had colors or has colors on it. I was not worried that you would bring it to the school review board because they can't do anything. Both of us know that. They don't scare me, nor can they make me do anything. This is the reason, or that is the reason why I don't stand for the flag anymore. So I got some knowledge, some understanding from this student. And so here's my reply. I said, thank you to this student. Obviously, the name is cut out. I'm sorry that people treat you and your family that way. Clearly, this negative treatment has tarnished your perception of what you once thought of America. We, as we always have had to do throughout history, will need to continue to push on in the times ahead for our country. I hope it gets better for you. Thanks for sharing this with me. Again, mocking or belittling, questioning. Let's see, another response from another student that was sitting that, and this went on for a while, so I decided to send an email out to ask. I didn't want to call him out in front of the whole class or anything like that. Felt that was wrong. Don't believe that's right at all. So I tried to do it in kind of a non-discreetly subtle manner to understand. So another response Mr. Taff received in my email says this: Hi, Mr. Taff. I don't stand for the pledge because of the things that I stand for. Now, I know you'd appreciate it if I told you the exact reasoning, but I'd prefer to not state them because not many people that I am friends with or family support them. However, the main reason is equality, one of the 5 ideals, and that's something that we focus on, used to focus on in this modern American history class as a sophomore, the one that I will no longer be teaching next year. That was removed from me. But anyways, back to this. I do not believe that everyone in the United States is equal nowadays. That is one of the reasons I don't stand. I, however, apologize if it is disrespectful to you. It's just what I believe is right. And then say, no, you don't have to apologize. I just want to understand why. Thanks. Again, short and sweet. That's what it came down to. So this is all in the report. I'm going to kind of jump back to something that Scott's trying to find it very interesting that there's certain very left, hard, liberal-leaning sites that are going to take words like this and twist them around and change the narrative over time. And I see that happening here again. And so in the conclusion, the report says, based on my review, this is again the attorney Savion Grinnell, of the above email exchange, I do not, catch this, do not conclude that Mr. Taff asking students why they chose not to stand for the pledge is a form of mocking or belittling them. So, interesting. But doing so could deter students from exercising their right not to participate. He then says what should be equally frowned upon. So it should be equally frowned upon to ask for understanding. So I should just live in the dark and not really know why they're doing it and not care. No, I care about my students. I want to understand. I'm sorry. Again, I dispute much of the findings. They're very subjective. And it says here, therefore, Mr. Taff should refrain from doing so in the future. A recommendation regarding that is addressed below. You can see here the recommendation, and that's literally what the district is now telling me to do. I can't ask students where they choose not to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and that's probably going to be more of a broad thing. I can't ask them much anymore. However, if students were to initiate a conversation, then apparently I got the green light. Otherwise, if not, I have to go talk to my principal or someone at the administrative level. Now, in the bottom left, again, going back to good old Scotty Williams here of the Journal Times, he then kind of writes, the investigator found emails in which Taff questioned individual students, right? Which is true. I questioned them about why they were not standing for a daily Pledge of Allegiance in his class. Noting that students are not required to stand for the pledge, the investigator wrote that Taff's questioning should be frowned upon and that it could deter students from exercising their rights not to stand. Now, these students continued to sit. That's their choice. It never deterred them. I don't believe I did this in a mocking or belittling manner. I don't even believe what I did to be wrong. I understand that I'll follow the directive of what the district is asking me to do now in the future. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it. I'm a free thinker. I'm free to decide for myself, but I'll follow that because that's what they want me to do. So, but now in the end of this, I don't want to just stop yet. It's frustrating to me, right? Because then so anyways, did I mock or belittle them? No, right? Clearly not. And if you think that, you're just wrong. But I want to go back to the beginning here because, right, here's what Scott Williams. So this is what people are reading. I know people today, we're headline readers, right? Maybe even a couple paragraphs in an article. But to literally click on a whole report, 14 pages, go through it, read it all, highly doubtful. And so most people, when they're reading this, the middle paragraph here, the little chunk, however, the two newly released reports show that the investigator found many complaints against me to be accurate, right? And so he's saying that this is accurate. So I question students. Scott Williams even says then, right, that it should be frowned upon. Well, taking the quote from the investigation, I get that. But whoa, hold on. Where did the question change? So now I'm questioning students. I don't believe in a spirit of like mockery and belittling and, all that crap, but out of a spirit of inquiry and wanting to understand and let it be. So if this is what the report says, that students were mocked and belittled if they didn't stand, and that Scott Williams says that these complaints were accurate, and yet what was found was that I didn't mock and belittle them, that is misinformation. And this is what Scott Williams does. It's terrible. I've noticed it many, many times over the last few months. And I just want to draw people's attention to this, to the truth. Again, I'm not ashamed of, sending out emails to students. Got some information I learned, So whatever that's worth for you. Again, claim that I mock and belittle students. I don't think so. So thanks for listening.